Hello, everyone. On today's show, we're talking about the 2020 film Another Round. So, Another Round is Thomas Vinterberg's new film. Vinterberg, the director of The Celebration, and he's directed other films, including a pretty good adaptation of Far from the Madding Crowd, the novel by Thomas Hardy, and it's definitely worth watching. And also, Vinterberg is part of that group in the 90s called Dogma 95, in which these filmmakers decided to simplify their films by having a set of rules in which to follow to make the films sort of more artistic, more pure, I guess you would say. Some of the rules were, only use available light. um, Director gets no credits, things like that. So some of those films are certainly worth watching, including Vinterberg's. But this one, don't worry, they use light. They use available or non-available. It's well directed. It's a story about a group of teachers who are also very tight friends, colleagues, who decided to play a little game, and it's based on a Norwegian psychoanalyst named Skarderud, if I get it right, who believed that at birth humans are operating at a 0.05% blood alcohol level, and so you must correct that by maintaining a blood alcohol level of 0.05% every day. So these men attempt to do it. And things aren't going to go well for these guys. However, they do notice that their love lives improve. Their teaching improves. In fact, at one point, one of the teachers notes, "Hey, I've never taught better." And they seem happier people. And so I will say that the movie is excellent. It's a well-told story and sharply directed, as I mentioned, and two very strong performances by the husband and wife, Mads Mikkelsen and Maria Bonnevie. Excellent. And so you care about these people, you feel for their pain. And but the director is very smart because he keeps it at a very light, almost a light feel throughout. It's not heavy. It's not Leaving Las Vegas, although there are elements that are as dark as Leaving Las Vegas. But the pacing, the music, the performances, they're all first rate. Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this film was brought to us by my brother, right? Chris. And as I watched it, I wasn't really sure because it's a foreign film. It's Dutch, right? It was made in Denmark.
So it's Danish, but
yeah, I'm sorry, Danish. What am I saying? Yeah, Danish. So, but right away it gets you because you get the feel of what's going on, and in Denmark, right? There's a lot of drinking going on by young people, not just young people, but everybody, and it's just part of the culture. And so, really, if you're over 0.05 in that culture and you want to drive, you get cited. Okay, so they are really careful with not going past that 0.05. I think here in the United States, isn't it 0.08? That's way here. And so these gentlemen, like you shared, take on this experiment. But I found it funny. There are some scenes where you just can't help but laugh because these four get together and they dance and they're living life. And there's some really cool scenes at the end of the lead actor, Martin, who I guess he was a ballet dancer in real life. I mean, in his previous career. And so he just does this great piece at the end. You have to stay and watch that. It's just wonderful. But throughout the film, these are high quality actors. And I believe I've even seen Martin in some film. I mean, maybe it was a 007 film. He looks like a good bad guy. But
He's
that
got a lot of.
thing's
He's
he's done a
got
lot, right?
many. He's has many American credits. Yes.
Yeah, he's just fabulous. And so, and it's kind of strange because you're thinking, wait, these four teachers are going to be pretty much drunk, and they don't only go 0.05, they take it to the next level, 1.0, and then go beyond. And so, it's just gonna get they're going to get in trouble by doing that regarding with their
I mean,
marriages and so forth.
obviously, being at 0.08, 0.09, 1,
Yeah,
1.2 in a classroom,
yeah, things are going to
people are
go
going to notice. People are going to teach. Students are going to notice. So,
right. So,
so you
but
like them. So did you like the
but I
movie?
like the
Sounds like
film.
you did. It sounds
I
like you
like
did.
the film because you see them, you get a little, you got a little anxiety knowing that they're going to be in class, being at 1.0, 1.1, 1.2.
You,
So it was great. Like you said before, the director was awesome. I mean, it was just, they take you to these clips when you see these uh, leaders of countries like
world leaders who are
world,
drunk.
leaders who are drunk. And it's just
Right.
hilarious, Clinton,
The,
Yeltsin. So
yeah, they show those like a little montage.
it's funny.
Very very funny. You say you can't help but laugh. I actually small point, but I think it was intentional for you to laugh. I don't think they were painting some dark. They were trying to make you laugh
Well,
because
the teaching part, because they go into the classroom, Ruben, drunk. I mean, I'm like,
no. I'm not saying a specific part. I'm
oh,
just
okay,
saying
okay,
when because you mentioned there were different elements through the film where you can't
right,
help but laugh. I just want to let the audience know it's intentionally funny
right.
because it's a light touch and it's a maturely written and directed film in that it's if you think about Leaving Las Vegas, I'm making that
Hmm.
comparison. It's a film where he's drinking to excess from beginning to end, and it's just disaster.
Yeah,
But not this film. This film is admitting that these people are happy and their lives did improve to a certain extent. So it's we have to
right,
give that
yeah,
element is true. They did the marriage was saved. I mean, plot spoiler.
yeah,
The marriage was saved by drinking, and the marriage was ruined by drinking.
yeah,
That is a mature look at this at life. It admits to a certain extent. By the way, the scientific theory of we're born 0.05% at alcoholic deficit is absurd. I mean, that's crazy. But this guy does exist, and he does believe that, or he did believe that.
right,
Um, in terms of the authenticity, because we talk about that, I guess for me, but what I got out of it is that there is anxiety that students go through and teachers that that has to be addressed. Now, I don't recommend what the teacher suggested the student do before a test because he was all confused and anxious and he needed to pass this test to go to med school. Hey, why don't you take a shot with me
right.
and maybe another? That was his
That wasn't good.
but it reminded me though in that scene that students are struggling and it's good just to ask them, how are you doing? Here's a strategy. How about taking a walk? How about just relaxing and doing nothing, no studying for a few hours
Right.
and breathe a little bit. Also the anxiety that teachers go through and they endure, and sometimes they in who knows excess drugs and alcohol, and what to do to replace that is important. And part of it is the relationships that are, you had just mentioned to me of a somebody in the teaching world who just got a divorce a couple years back, and that's real.
Sure.
And so the importance of supporting each other as teachers, this is what I got out of it, and I think it's a pretty meaningful message and film.
Yeah, it's funny. At the same time, I think there's also a piece of the message where, because I think at 0.5 they're fine, but when they start upping it, up to 0.8, 1, then things start going awry, and then the danger is becoming an alcoholic, and that was the fear. And one of them did become alcoholic, and he had he had difficult issues coming at the end of the film. And so that being said, I think that the teacher, the main star, Martin, I think he was not believing in himself in the beginning of the film. They started drinking a little bit, and he felt a little more loose, and he became a little better. Became a better teacher. Although I think he was always a good teacher, because at the end of the film, he wasn't drinking anymore. And the students were saying, "What's going on?" They're like, "Why are you in low gear?" And he looked at them, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I better get myself back up." And he started, connecting with him again, and he got into gear, and he had it in him. He didn't have to be drinking. So I think that was kind of cool, and that's authentic. You don't have to do that to to be a good
It's
teacher.
there really is there is a body of
Mhm.
knowledge, or even just people who believe in this particular body of ideas, that
Yeah,
you have to indulge in something in order to get to the highest state. You have to take this drug or this drink or this whatever. It usually is drugs,
right.
but actually there was a book I read that talked about not sleeping for a certain amount of hours
Mhm.
to keep reducing your sleep, and it puts you in hallucinogenic states, and you perform better in certain ways. But I'm of the belief in the opposite.
Yeah,
I'm of the belief that how can you perform at your best without any of that?
yeah,
That's hard. That's one of the hardest things in life to do, is
right.
to be in a sober state and to find avenues of success. Certainly when you're teaching,
Sure. Yeah.
I guess that shouldn't be said, have to be said, but
Yeah, I did want to share one more thing regarding authenticity. There was a piece where, a scene, I should say, where Martin. This is before he starts drinking in the class. I mean, before class, and the principal wants Martin to meet the parent group of parents, and he's kind of sabotaged. He didn't even know this was going to happen. He didn't know anything about the meeting. He goes into the room with these parents, and I think in real life, I would hope an administrator would talk to the teacher, say, hey, this is what's happening. Let me go in with you. Let me support you. And they threw him in there in the den. The parents went at him, right? Letting him know how terrible he was and how fearful that that their children were not going to pass the exams, right, before graduation. And so he just took it, and he was like, whoa. And I just felt like that was a bad move by the administrator. I don't think most administrators do that. Um, but I just felt that made me feel a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure if you remember that scene, Ruben.
um, no, I mean, I think you're right. We should get support by administrators, but also, I would like to say this,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in closing, is that I think the message, I think this is an unusual film in a very good way. It's the journey of a group of people, not just one. Again, we talk about Leaving Las Vegas, but there are other films like this where one person is doing it alone, is sort of trying to slay the dragon by themselves. But here you have a group of colleagues who have stumbled, maybe not stumbled into alcoholism, but by choice, go down that path. And I would just say that during this shutdown, I made a couple of calls to teachers that I know, and they were so appreciative that I called. And I think that we need to be mindful of that as colleagues, that some people might not be doing so well, and just a little call to check in how they're doing is appropriate. And I think it's one of the messages of the film. So
Yeah,
with
that's
that,
very good.
tell us what you think, everybody. If you've seen the film, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.